Welcome to Eros and Roses. Today we speak about the unspoken power of female sexuality. Now, this is a controversial subject which tends to make a lot of people uncomfortable, which is why it needs to be spoken about. As a woman recognized and revered within her sexual power should not be viewed as something that makes a person uncomfortable. Now, of course, a woman should never be reduced down to her sexuality, as women are capable of absolutely everything and anything they put their minds towards. And this is fact. This is proven. Although at the same time, in order to be taken seriously, a woman does not have to, she must not give up her sensuality and her right to enjoy her sensuality and express her sensuality and feel excitement from that aspect of herself. There does not have to be a trade-off. And a woman's sensuality and her sexuality, expressed openly or not, should not be viewed in a negative light, as it takes nothing away from her. But it is her enjoyment of herself that ties into how her sexuality is powerful. Yet for centuries, women's connection to this energy has been systematically suppressed by cultural norms, religious structures, social taboos have often shamed, attempted to constrain, debase, and obscure female sexuality, cutting many women off from their libido, the very force that is connected to their kundalini and her ability to tap into this creative potential. Now, when a woman represses this aspect of herself, it not only affects her hormonal system physically, but it dulls her vitality that severs this natural flow of her Shakti, leaving her inner flame dormant, unrecognized, and oftentimes misdirected. The beauty and sensuality of the female principle throughout history has been so powerful that it is capable or has been capable of influencing social order, which of course is extremely threatening to the ego, and most specifically to male ego, as a lot of the times when there's something that we view as beautiful or something that ignites desire within us, we don't just simply admire it from afar. We often of the times attempt to possess it. Now, for example, in the 6th century BC in Athens, there was a lawmaker, Solon, implemented strict laws attempting to limit women's public display of wealth. And this was through their expression of clothing, their expression of jewelry, and what they decided to wear, because they believed that the influence of such beauty could disrupt marriages, provoke jealousy, and threaten social harmony, as they seemed to be very focused on the external displays and actions of other people instead of focusing on the internal reactions of those individuals and how they dealt with that, constantly pushing the blame externally upon the woman instead of having individuals learn self-accountability for their own energetic reactions. To provide another example here, in ancient Rome, the Lex Oppia limited women's luxury adornments during the Second Punic War, while officially, for wartime austerities, historians often wrote openly that men feared women's beauty could sway political ideas and undermine authority. For example, Roman men, particularly traditionalists like Cato the Elder, were concerned that certain elite women who had gained wealth through inheritance due to the high male morality were stepping outside traditional household roles, acquiring too much independence through their personal luxuries. In medieval Europe, the church and state authorities condemned cosmetics, jewelry, and lavish clothing. Church leaders argued that excessive beauty practices were linked to the devil and that this was vanity over spiritual salvation, not recognizing the underlying connectivity of all things. And again, emphasizing the fact of external temptation and placing the blame on external things instead of looking within and realizing that your reaction and how you deal with this reaction and how you take self-responsibility for your energetic projections plays a huge role in your soul's development. So there has been a long history throughout centuries and different societal situations of attempts to control women, attempt to control how they express themselves and how much sensuality they are allowed to express. There's always a fear around what a woman could provoke, how she can influence, and how she can embody desire freely, and most importantly, how a woman and her body can ignite desire within other people. And if they don't learn how to properly transmute and deal with their own desire, they will forever be at beckon of external power around them instead of learning to cultivate internal power within them. Now, the fact that female sexuality and female beauty has the power to ignite desire within individuals around them is not an element that is taken lightly, as that is a powerful, influential force that occurs naturally, innately within the feminine. Now, when people suppress natural desires, whether that be sexual, emotional, creative, this energetic desire within you does not simply disappear. It expresses in different ways, both psychologically and physically. Often, individuals project and it manifests as judgment, shaming, and attempts to debase and control other people's behaviors and forms of self-expression. For example, a man or a woman who cannot acknowledge their own attraction towards a beautiful woman might then vilify her, vilify the woman that expresses it. A culture that represses female sexual agency often then uses women as scapegoats, labeling them as temptresses, immoral, or dangerous, instead of acknowledging the unchecked energetic reality of what's truly occurring within them, and that this woman is igniting some sort of energetic reaction in which is desire. And if it is not recognized for what it is, many of the times it comes out as a form of a projection, an attempt to debase that person. Now again, this is a threat to the ego, right? As something is able to pull a reaction out of you seemingly against your will if you don't have mastery over your own willpower, your own energetic control, right? So you'll see it all the time, most especially online. you can see a beautiful woman, perhaps on a reel, a video, picture, and below it, you can most guarantee 70-80% of the time that there will be an attempt down below to try to debase this woman somehow, whether refer to her as an OnlyFans girl, she's wearing too much makeup, she's too much skin, etc. The amount of comments are limitless. The attempts and ways that people try to debase beautiful women. You'll see this occurring even quite often within movies, whereas there's this trope of like, if you're blonde, you must not be intelligent. If you're too beautiful, you must not be academic. And there's this like separation that people have falsely created in different ways, in different forms of these societal, very false make-believe expectations and labels that we have placed upon each other, and often of the times they are forms of control for external things that we feel we don't have control of. Female sexuality is not just social power, it is actually powerful because it is connected to her health herself. Her libido, her hormonal system, is a large factor when considering female health, as the libido is intimately connected to her hormonal system, which helps regulate her estrogen, progesterone, oxytocin, and overall reproductive health, etc. While repression of her sexual desire and her sexual expression can create stress, can create internal limitations, hormonal imbalance, and diminishes vitality overall. Her pleasure and self-connectivity, and even how she views herself, and if she views herself as attractive, again, this will affect her hormonal system. And conscious sexual expression are integral to physical and mental well-being. As many of the times you realize that women in general are far more restrictive with our sexuality, right? We're a lot less externally expressive on a regular basis, not considering that we have also been basically programmed to behave this way, right? As modesty is still a form of control. If dressing modest truly excites the woman herself, then that's a good and healthy place to be at. But if she's only dressing modest because of some societal expectation, she feels that she has to be this way in order to be respected. Now, this will form a split within her psyche, within her libido, and her rational mind. The split between the instincts and the ego. And so she should abandon the societal expectation and act on pure libido impulse, as this will assist her in reconnecting herself with her primal force. Ancient traditions often understood this, such as in Tantra and certain forms of goddess worships. You'll find that they didn't treat sexual energy as shameful whatsoever, but it was revered as a sacred force. It was viewed as a bridge between vitality and intuition. They were honoring the sexual energy, not in a form of indulgence, but as self-preservation and empowerment. Now, I have mentioned this before, and I will continue to mention this fascinating aspect of biology in the terms of pheromones and hormones, since science really adds a fascinating layer to this overall understanding, as there is a direct feedback loop between the masculine and the feminine, between females and males. The particular pheromone that I often contemplate is copulin. Now, of course, I always encourage you to do your own research, and you will come to find that there are studies showing that this copulin, which is a pheromone produced by female secretions, can increase male testosterone by 150%. Now, we must consider all the indoctrination stoppers within our food, all the chemicals within our products that are affecting both the female and male hormonal system. But on top of that consideration, that if a woman is disconnected from her sensuality, she fears it, she fears her self-expression, and she disconnects herself from her libido this way, this will have an overall effect on her hormonal system, which will affect her life, which will affect her relationship with men. And there is this correlation here between men and women that I feel must overall be considered. Truly, the implications are quite profound, as female biology communicates powerfully, even at a chemical level, that attraction is not just cultural. It's actually also biological, neurological, and also unconscious, which isn't oftenly contemplated, recognized, or spoken about. Modern neuroscience really confirms this complexity, because when a man encounters certain sexual cues, be it appearance, scent, movement, the limbic system then activates. The hypothalamus regulates sexual hormones, while dopamine floods the brain, which activates reward circuits tied to pleasure, motivation, and desire. So even before conscious thought occurs, in terms of attraction, the brain already responds to sexual stimuli. The response is immediate, instinctual, and it seems compelling, explaining why desire, often at times, especially more so for men, can feel overwhelming and almost uncontrolled. Ancient spiritual traditions really understood this concept long before neuroscience or biology could explain what was occurring. In Tantra and yogic lineage, sexual energy is Shakti, right? The dynamic creative life force of this universe. And it was understood that sexual energy, or we can say desire, can overwhelm a person if it's left unconscious, not recognized, not transmuted. When honored and properly integrated, it then becomes creativity. And so men unaware of this energy are said to be controlled by their Shakti. Carl Jung really spoke about this a lot in his own terms with the anima and animas. Now, they're controlled by the Shakti because they are not recognizing it, they're not acknowledging it. So it's not because the woman is threatening, it's not because the woman is the seductress, but it's because the sexual energy within them is so naturally compelling that if they don't properly direct it within themselves and it's left undirected, it then looks for an external source to blame. Now, the goal is never suppression, right? Suppression of sexual energy leads to many strange things that really occur neurologically, right? Think about priests and how they repress their sexual energy and what occurs there. The goal is self-mastery, awareness that you can transform your instinct into power and allow that energy to flow rather than repress it, project it, or fear it. Because if it is repressed, it projects into blame and fear. And if it's embraced, it consciously becomes vitality and transformation. Female sexuality has toppled empires. It inspires art. It inspires technological advancement. It inspires societal advancement. And often it challenges societal norms, because the power of female sexuality doesn't just lie within the individual who is embodying it, but it really lies within the minds that are experiencing it. Whether that mind responds with some sort of projection, fear, or admiration. But female sexuality has long been legislated against, and it has also been worshipped, but it is most certainly not dangerous, and it was most certainly never the problem or the source to blame. And until society collectively understands this, the shadow will remain very large, and there is much work that still must be had, as we are still seeing things in a dualistic viewpoint. There is no split between sexuality and spirituality, and the deepest, most esoteric secrets and teachings behind all world religions are all preparing the individual of how to properly approach sex, how to properly engage in sex. Female sexuality really has the capability to test people and show them what's really going on energetically within themselves. A presence of a highly sexual, sensual woman forces a person to face their own desires, face their own insecurities, their shadows, and fears. Lust and aggression are often part of this trial. Can they respond consciously, or will they be consumed by their own instinct? The woman's exaggerated expression within modern-day society is truly a spiritual tool, as it is a living mirror. The more unapologetic the female becomes with her sexuality, the stronger the reflection, the more intense the reactions, the more purification begins. Those that are unable to control their own internal energetic responses will always attempt to reduce the source. They will label her. She's doing it for attention. She's easy. She's fake. She's dumb. But every insult is truly showing us the same thing within that individual, that they are trying to collapse her value. Because when her value drops, the internal tension within them drops. But again, the tension was never coming from her. The tension comes from the individual who lacks control in the observer. This is not just social behavior. This is true shadow. The female principle does not create chaos, but it reveals who already is within the state of chaos. And that's why the feminine principle was always attempted to be controlled. It was judged and misunderstood because it forces a confrontation most people avoid, not within her, but within themselves. If you enjoyed this podcast episode and would like to find more of my work, you can visit my Substack at Anastasia Agape YouTube channel, or you might consider downloading my free ebook, Aphrodite and the Science of Desire. You may also consider signing up for my newsletters so you won't miss any upcoming book drops that I will be releasing. I hope this podcast episode offered you some sort of value or contemplation. Until next time.